meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Peters? Mr. Bannock?
Here.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Chauncey?
Here.
Reverend Custer?
Here.
Mr. Johnston?
Here.
Ms. Lugo?
Here.
Mr. Staborski?
Here.
Mr. Valesky?
Here.
Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence, please. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to move into our committee of the whole part of the agenda, the work session. Our first on the agenda tonight is our Cambridge Springs Junior High School. Ella has her report.
Good evening, I'm Ella Morant, and I'll be updating you on what is happening at Cambridge Springs. Coming up very soon on February 4th is a school-wide trip to the Erie's Otter game. We're all very excited. Our girls basketball team is right on their way to playoffs. Both our boys wrestling team and our girls wrestling team, who are hosted by Sagertown, are also having a good start, yet it's too early to determine anything now. On Friday, National Honor Society is hosting a blood drive. National History Day students are starting up again. This year's theme is Rights and Responsibilities. Every Friday, we draw for a PBIS winner for students who have earned SPA points. Yearbook and Journalism have been running Cambridge Speaks, our school podcast. New episodes of Tell Ella Everything series are posted every Wednesday. On the last one, myself, along with some other Pitchfork staff writers, discuss New Year's resolutions. So, if you miss seeing me and hearing me talk, don't fret, because you can listen to me more on Cambridge Speaks. As you can see in front of you was our latest edition of the Pitchfork, the Christmas edition. On the front cover, you can see one of our co-editors-in-chief, Haley Jardina. Next to her stands Lieutenant Dan from Forrest Gump, or his actor at least. Haley writes on how he's a hero in real life as long as on the screen. If this interests you, read more. Our next edition will be the Valentine's Day edition. Remember, you can always keep up with us on our social medias. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ella.
Next is our PAEA representative, Debbie Miller.
I don't know if I can follow that. Good evening, members of the board, administration, staff, and community members of PENNCREST School District. I am, as he said, Debbie Miller, and I'm addressing you on behalf of our teachers and our educational specialists. First, I would like to commend the board for their direction and the administration for their dedication to working collaboratively to address challenges and celebrate achievements in our district. This is not meant to be a criticism of past leadership, but there have been many issues to clean up and even discover, and at all times, Mr. Ford and Mrs. Feely have chosen to tackle them with open dialogue. It is refreshing to not hear the words chain of command, and instead hear things like, can you call me so we can talk? Or, I just wanted to talk to you first, or even better, I'm sure we can find a way to work it out. This is not to say that we always agree on the best direction to take, but there is a reasonableness and a willingness to listen that is refreshing. As we head into 2025, I'm certain that the things we face will not be any easier, but I am confident that the voices of the teachers and the specialists will be wanted and heard. Honestly, that is the most effective way to bring about change and progress. Who knows better than those in the classroom? To add to that, the students are key stakeholders too. I'm glad to report that both have been brought to the table. At our monthly liaison meeting with the administration in December, we told Mr. Ford that the teachers wanted to see him more. They wanted him to come to see the real stories of our buildings and our classrooms. Instead of a rationale or at worst an excuse, Mr. Ford said, I own that. While I met my goals for extracurricular activities and seeing our students, I did not do enough to be present in the buildings. Literally within days, he and Mrs. Feely were there. He also had some focus groups where he talked to students. These conversations will be the key to finding answers. We are going to need this dialogue to work on the issue I have repeatedly asked your attention to, which is class size. Mr. Ford has asked the building administrators to consider building level teams to come together to brainstorm ideas. We need the board to continually ask about and support that progress. As I have pleaded before, let's not wait a year to do something. For instance, have any of the alternatives been explored for a Sagertown 6th grade? Besides adding a long-term sub or dividing specials, maybe there is even support from SHS or for some things since it is within walking distance to the elementary. Again, go to those in the classroom, the teachers and the students, and listen to their concerns and ideas. If we dedicate ourselves to authentically working together, we can make progress on class size, graduation requirements, daily schedule requirements, achievement, more course offerings, etc. Even AI. I and my fellow officers recently attended a professional development seminar on artificial intelligence and gained valuable insights into the appropriate educational implementation. My point is, even with something new such as AI, we can work together and collaborate for progress for this district and return it to a place where teachers want to work and families want their students to learn and grow in. Thank you.
Next up will be our PIAA Fall Sports presentations. Mr. Baker.
Allow me to get caught up.
Got it?
Got it. So it gives me a great pleasure to recognize several of our student athletes for their accomplishments during the fall season. And if you're here, I have the...
We were told not to be here till 7, so they're not here yet.
Well, I
The
thought,
grandparents are here, but not the kids.
I thought it started at 7 as well. Apparently
Yeah.
We will,
So I
we'll
know
move
they're not
on.
here.
Thank you.
We'll come back.
We'll come back to it.
That'd
We'll
be
come back,
great.
absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Mrs. Fonzo is here. Erin's here to do a data presentation for those of you who don't. Mrs. Fonzo is our elementary school principal at Maplewood. She is also working on behalf of the district in the role of data. She's also this year our assessment coordinator. So she has put together a data presentation that we've been talking to you about. The data was released at the end of the year, and so we wanted to show that to the board and to the community. So.
Thank you for that very nice introduction. Hi, good evening, everybody. Like Mr. Ford said, Erin Fonzo, the principal at Maplewood Elementary School, and also the district assessment coordinator this school year. So, been spending since August getting that position, learning all that I can about school data, digging into the data, and then in talking to Mr. Ford and Mrs. Feely about a data review for the school board. I promised I would keep it to 20 slides. It's only 25, so I didn't go over too terribly much. So tonight I broke it down for you. In November, mid-November, finally all of the state data was released. PSSA scores, PBOS, Future Ready Index, all that good stuff from when we test in the spring. Everything was finally out in November for us to review. And if I get in your way, please holler and tell me to move. The first thing I broke down is achievement data just from the spring. So when we talk about achievement data, that's our PSSA scores, that's our keystone data that kids at the high school take in the spring. It's measurable information about how a group of kids did, so maybe third graders in math, or how kids that took the Keystone Literature did. And it's their performance on those standardized tests. It's a location. How did those kids do on that date in the spring on that particular test? So broken down, I have starting out 3 through 8 PSSA ELA data. So in the spring of 2024, grade 3, 64% of our students were advanced or proficient in reading on their ELA PSSA, 55.4 in grade 4 across the district, grade 5 almost 58%, grade 6 65%, grade 7 about 62%, and grade 8 45%. So again, that's where kids were in the spring taking their PSSA ELA grades 3 through 8. Please come on in. Hello. Hi guys, please come on in, make yourselves at home.
Chairs. We'll get a copy. Aaron.
Yep, I will gladly get copies out. Mr. Ford and Mrs. Feely have this link as well. And here's our achievement data. It's also important to look at how we're doing in comparison to the state. So when you look at grades 3 through 8 ELA, how we did in the spring, and then you put it in comparison to the rest of the state, the PENNCREST scores are the dark burgundy color, and the state is the other color, the lighter purplish gray color. So as you can see, in most areas, we outperformed the state on the ELA PSSA. Now, there are definitely some areas to look at to improve upon, but I think, when you look at comparison across the state, the kids taking the same test, we did better than the state in a lot of those areas. And also looking back, how are we doing? I know nobody wants to talk about COVID anymore, but it is a reality that we had to contend with. Kids lost months and months of school that we have spent a lot of time working very, very hard to catch them up. So considering that, this year's second grade class, for example, is the first group of kids that have not been impacted by COVID finally. So third grade, when you look at those ELA scores and PSSAs, I think that's important to consider. The darkest color is 2024, so those achievement scores that we just talked about, and then 2023 and 2022. So in third grade in particular, you can see each year that we've come out of COVID, our achievement scores are increasing. And then also have grades 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 there as well. Looking across this span of 3 years, how are we achieving now in 2024 in comparison to the year before, and 2 years before? And really, really pleased looking at that third grade group. I think it's safe to say we're coming out of those effects of COVID. Kids are back in school, we're not interrupted, and we're closing less of those gaps. Here is the PSSA math data, again broken down grades 3 through 8. Grade 3, again, 59%, almost 60% of our kids scored advanced or proficient in math. Grade 4, almost 51. Grade 5, 44. Grade 6, almost 39%. Grade 7, almost 28%, and grade 8, almost 21%. And again, look at those scores in comparison to the state. I know some of those numbers don't look great. However, when you look at them in comparison across to the state, math is a statewide issue. It is concerning for PENNCREST. It's also concerning to a lot of other schools in this state. Now, again, very similar to ELA PSSAs, when you start looking at that group of third grade students that is the least impacted by COVID closures, interruptions, there's us compared to the state where we're seeing more of an advantage there. Achievement data broken down. The achievement from this past year in comparison to 23, 22, and seeing those increases in achievement this year in comparison to past years. In science, not every grade takes that. Grade 4 takes science. Last year was the last year grade 4 will take science. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. And grade 8 also takes the science PSSA. Last year, almost 62% of our 4th graders were advanced or proficient, and about 56 of our 8th graders. And then, since there's only 2 data scores there, I put these together on the same slide. So there is PENNCREST in the dark burgundy in comparison to the rest of the state, how we did in comparison. And then again, that 3-year trend. So again, like I said, definitely have seen some areas that we have improved. And then again, when you look at those comparisons across the state, we did do better in comparison to lots of areas of the state too when we break that down. The high schools, their standardized tests are keystones for literature, algebra, and biology. In literature, we had almost 58% of our kids that take it were advanced or proficient. Algebra, almost 30, and biology, about 35% of our kids last year were proficient or advanced that took that keystone exam. And again, in comparison to the state, ELA seems to be a strong spot, 3 and up, where we are really outperforming the state and getting good achievement numbers. And then looking at the past 3 years, 24, 23, 22, how we're doing in regards to achievement over time. So those numbers were all from spring testing data. This now is growth data. So 2 things we look at, achievement and growth, both important things to look at when we're talking about instruction, student goals, monitoring progress. And growth really refers to a direction. So where PSSAs talked about a location, where those kids were at when they tested, that this is a direction. Did kids grow? Did they make growth over the past year? You can look at cohorts of kids over years. This is looking at did kids make hopefully you're looking at a year's worth of growing over a school year. So PVOS is what we look at specifically in Pennsylvania, is our value-added system that measures growth based on standardized tests. So those achievement scores we just looked at, PVOS takes those into account, and then again, adding that value-added measure of did they grow? Did those kids grow in their next achievement test, their scores? So you won't see grade 3 scores in the PVOS data because that's the first year kids take the PSSA, so there's no growth data for them. But it does start in 4th grade. So growth color indicators right here, 4 through 8 ELA right up here for you from this past school year, 2024. We have grades 4, 5, and 6 in this light blue area, which is above. Dark blue is the best, that's great. We, 4, 5, and 6 are in the light blue, which is above. As a district, ELA scores, our students made above the growth that they were supposed to make, they were predicted to make. And then 7 and 8 are listed on there too, along with, that's just it, I'm sorry, 7 and 8. Moving on to math, grades 4 through 8. No blues there, but 4, 5, and 6 are in the green, so they met that growth standard in grades 4, 5, and 6 with their math PVOS data. 7 and 8 are there as well. Again, we don't have 3rd grade data for these because there is no achievements or no growth score for them yet. Science, this is typical. This always looks this way. The kids do really, really well on the PSSA science. So grade 4, they're in that above category, and grade 8 is well above, which is awesome. Keystone literature, algebra, and biology scores are right there. Again, Keystone literature, well above growth in that area range. So literature definitely seems to be a strong point. Also, kind of with the achievement data, broke it down over 3 years. Wanted to look at 22, 23, 24. How are we doing coming out of the learning loss, COVID, all of the interventions we put in place. So 2022 is up at the top, 23, 24. And as you can see shifts, you can see moves, and you can see changes as kids go through the grades, how they're growing, how they're learning with those different cohorts of kids. Did the same thing for math. Wanted to look back at the past 3 years, how different grade levels are doing. Definitely some bright areas there. Science over 3 years, again, not surprised. Growth data looks great there too. And the past 3 years, Keystone Algebra, Biology, Literature. 22, 23, 24, dark blue, Keystone Literature. So that's awesome to see, that's terrific. So I'm sure you saw some areas that we've improved. I'm sure you noticed the math scores, not just a struggle here, they're a struggle throughout. Thank you for allowing me to go to the SAS conference in December. I sat through some great math sessions, talked to some other principals, math coaches, all banging our heads together about math scores. So, you know, we're not alone in this. Some things that we have been doing over the past year as a district to try to get our math scores better, get kids thinking about math. We have brought in Kevin Morrow has come into a few of the buildings. He is PDE's math contact. So he has come in to help teachers construct open-ended math questions. Those depth of knowledge questions at level 4 that you hear about, 3 and 4. Kevin Morrow is their math contact, comes in and will work with math teachers on questioning strategies. He's fantastic. He was at Maplewood in September. I can speak for the session I sat through with him there. Very down to earth, applicable stuff. He was fantastic. We've had a number of teachers since a year ago. We started after the holiday break last year. We had a number of teachers do a building thinking classrooms in math, virtual book study. It's through IU6. There's a gentleman there named Ben Brost who is a math expert, and this is really his bread and butter, where he led a book study. I had some other teachers want to join it this fall. They heard about it in the spring but couldn't do it for whatever reason. Wanted to do it this fall, so a number of teachers are doing it now. And then Ben is going to be with us at in-service next week. He's coming on site to talk to teachers, work with teachers that have already done his book study. The book study has made a lot of impact in the classrooms that are using it. The strategies, again, really matching a lot of what Kevin Morrow talked to us about. Strategies to get kids thinking, doing, working together to solve math problems. Something I was going to mention, I mentioned in the presentation that grade 4, this was last year grade 4 was going to take that PSSA science. With the change to the STEELS standards, grade 5 is now taking the STEELS PSSA assessment this coming spring, which is replacing PSSA science. So new standards, more rigorous standards. This year is just a field test. So there are no scores. They're just going to see how kids do and throw out some questions and leave some questions on for the following year. This year is really going to see how the kids do being tested on these new STEELS standards in 5th grade. Next year also will be the first year that all of Pennsylvania schools have to implement online state testing. So PSSAs, Keystones, there will be no more paper pencil option for schools. They're all going to be tested online. A couple ways that PDE is supporting that initiative. They released the Firefly benchmark this school year. It's the same platform and simulates the state exams. So say a 3rd grader that takes that math Firefly benchmark, it's going to look very similar to what the PSSA looks like. Same modules, same format, same testing environment, so that our 3rd graders aren't looking at that for the first time next spring when they're sitting down to do a PSSA. So that's the way that we are doing that. Our 5th graders at the elementaries are going to take their STEELS PSSA online this spring to at least get that group of kids ready to take 6th grade PSSAs online next year. And along with the Firefly pilot, PDE also released a lot of online tools training for kids and teachers. So kids are able to do simulations about how to use the different tools in the test itself to solve problems that you practice with the kids before they take the test. PDE is offering a number of 1-hour webinars over the next couple months for teachers to sit through, so that they can ask questions if they're struggling with what does this mean in this online tool. PDE is offering support and help by offering those 1-hour sessions that math teachers can sit through and get their questions answered so they can help kids use it the best that they can. So some areas for growth. I hope you saw some areas for improvement, and I really appreciate you having me speak here tonight and look forward to digging into data some more this school year.
Just Aaron.
Work session, right? Questions?
Absolutely.
Thank you first for articulating everything so well. We always see, and I asked this last year, we have our raw proficiency, and then we have our growth, and then we have the bar with the state. I asked this of Mr. Newman last year. I was like, I think it would be prudent of us if we could grab, because there's 501 districts in the state. That's a wide range of, socioeconomic status. I'd love to see how PENNCREST is doing up against districts similar to PENNCREST. So grab a snapshot of 10, 15, 20 districts with a similar socioeconomic status of ours, similar resources, and then see how we're doing. I think we'll be quite surprised, and I think that could potentially give the teachers a lot of boost. That with what we have, with the resources that we have, and how are we performing. I think that would give a really good snapshot of how we're doing, because it's always how we're doing raw in growth, and then how we're doing up against 501 districts. Well, there's a massive spectrum of districts with different tax bases and so forth, and different students, and I think that would be a wise idea. You don't have to do it with this data. In particular, though, maybe with that 7th and 8th grade math, how are we doing? So if you want to zero in on that.
Yeah.
Which I would also point out to the board that we did see that coming. That's a cohort of students. You go back 2 or 3 years and it was 4th, 5th, and 6th grade math was in a similar situation, so it seems like there's that narrow group. We did see that coming. Maybe I'm speaking, we saw that coming when we did the data presentation last year. So, and then my next question is, science looked great, but then with the you answered it with the transition to steel standards. But again, I think we would be get a really good snapshot of how we're doing as a district up against similar districts.
We can do that. We'll get
for
that
whatever
to you.
standard you want to do, socioeconomic, classroom size, et cetera, et
And
cetera.
I think I can do that in PBOS now with some of the
You
different phases they put in. I can do that right in PBOS.
By no means do you work on
do that.
solutions
I know how
now.
to do that.
Okay.
By no means work on solutions now. I'm just saying in the future, that's a really good snapshot. And I believe, if I remember when Ken did it, it's a really good boost because it actually shows, PENNCREST is doing extraordinarily well given a lot of those circumstances, similar. So that's the only thing I'd add. Thank you, though.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, guys.
We did email out.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Baker. Ready to circle back around?
I am ready to circle back around. Thank you very much. First, I'd like to apologize to the parents, the grandparents. I went with the times prior to the consolidating of work sessions and voting meetings into one. I kept the 7 o'clock, so that is my fault. I will now know that for the next time that we do this, because I am fairly confident that we'll be recognizing our winter athletes, hopefully around March or April. But this is the fall athletes, and in no particular order, I'd like to recognize the cross-country teams first. We had one individual make it to the PIAA championships at Hershey in November from Maplewood, Logan Keir. Unfortunately, he was not able to attend. And then from Sagertown High School, we had 2 young ladies compete at the PIAA championship in Hershey. One was Cameron Herschel. Cameron. Congratulations. And the second one was Reese DeGiacomo. Moving on, we also had another team from Sagertown reach the state level of playoffs in volleyball. After a hard-fought District 10 championship against Maplewood, Sagertown girls volleyball team advanced with a home match here at Sagertown. Unfortunately, they came out on the losing end of that competition, but I'm looking forward for good things to come in the future as well. Members of this team, some of these young ladies can't be here because not only do they play volleyball, but they play basketball as well. As you'll see when we're here in the winter, you're going to hear some of these same names again. Bryn McLaughlin, Zyrin Pangatungan, I think I got that right. Lindsay Greco, Kendall Greger, Riley Bramer, Riley Price. Riley, you need to say something. Paige Smith, Mila Miller, Lauren Wright, Riley Amick, Abby Rockwell, Brooke Hogerall, Claire Barrickman, Adia Rose, Riley Zimmerman, Brooke Johnson, Brooke Newman, Haley Obenrader, Lynn Mockenhop, and then we had 3 managers, Camden Jovic, Miley Manning, and Avery Filippa. So that is the Sagertown girls volleyball team. Next off, we have the Sagertown boys golf team, which I had the pleasure of attending as well. So how it would work with the golf, so they have so many automatic qualifiers. To automatically qualify, you have to win your district competition. Unfortunately, in our district, it's very difficult because we are in a district with Cathedral Prep, Mercyhurst Prep, so we did not win the districts. However, the state gives out 2 at-large bids to schools based on the criteria of the course you play, as well as the scores that you have. So we received one of those at-large bids for the team to compete. So out of the 200+ AA golf teams, Sagertown was one of the top 8 in the state of Pennsylvania to compete down at the Penn State course, which is played on by the Penn State golf team. So I know they didn't finish as well as a team as they would have liked to, but finishing 8th out of 200+ golf teams in the state of Pennsylvania, that's not too shabby. In addition to competing as a team, we had an individual compete as well against, I believe there were 72 golfers that competed. Mason? It was 72 because I counted the numbers. So out of 72 golfers that competed individually, Mason finished 12th as a freshman. So congratulations. So you get 2. Congratulations. So in addition to Mason, the other members of the team that competed was Everett Gardner, Ryder Bailey, Tyler Cherpak, and I just lost my place. And I was there. You would think I could remember back to November.
Mason Elliott.
Mason, oh yeah.
Weston Baker, Tyler.
Weston Baker, Mason Alio, Ross Triolo was a member of the team, and Sutton Treziak. Those are the members of the Sagertown golf team that had an opportunity to compete at State College. Once again, with the Sagertown golf team, there are no seniors on the team this past year. So they should be returning all of the competitors last year to compete again this year. And Mason and Tyler Cherpak are 2 freshmen that competed. So once again, looking for good things to come from the Sagertown High School golf team. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Continuing on, I have my updates. Naturally, if some of our athletes, if you need to go, you're more than welcome to do that now. We congratulate you. I was able and privileged to go watch some of these young people at states and at districts. I was there, and I just thoroughly enjoyed myself watching these guys compete, and so I congratulate them. This is good stuff. Thank you very much. And you guys have a great evening, okay? I have a few items of information under my updates here this evening. The first one would be just to comment on the Power School cybersecurity breach. I sent out a letter on Friday. We were made aware late in the week. Mark and I attended a webinar, which we learned of the details of that on Thursday. This is so how to understand this Power School cybersecurity breach. This is their system. Our data is in their system in the cloud, if you will. Okay, that's how it works. So it wasn't a breach of our system. It was a breach of the Power School system. And they gained access through part of Power School is a international company with multiple companies underneath them and multiple different pieces. And the one piece that they got through was called Power Source, which is a support portal. And so they got, the bad actor got through that source. And so they are currently working with law enforcement, cybersecurity experts. A company called CrowdStrike is working. And so we are having to wait to see what the result of that investigation comes back. All right, so unfortunately, I gave as much information as I could. We know that there were two areas of information. There was basic contact information, and then there was also possible personal identifiable information. And so at this point, one of the points I made in my letter was, please do not respond to any direct communications or notifications that you may receive from Power School about this incident. All official communications will come from our school district, okay? So if you get something, don't open it, let us know, and then we will check. It will come through us right now. We'll be giving multiple updates as we get information. Right now, we're waiting for that investigation to play out and waiting for that. So, but I thought it was important that I address it here this evening. And so to go over that, once the investigation's over, they will be offering services, products to help with whatever they find. And so that's kind of where we're at. Letter on the website, that's what I just went over again here. That's the information I have at this point in time. Once we get through that, and we will decide internally if there's any additional actions that we need to take. But right now, Power School actually is up and running. It's working. I know we have grades coming up and different things. It's working, and so this was one aspect of that. We did do some internal password changes over the weekend to make sure that we're doing the best we can. But that's what we have at this point in time. Okay. The second thing is we've used 2 of our 3 snow days. And I'm very hopeful that will be it, but my hope is, we're getting some weather this week. So, and we have 1 more to use, and so the reason I'm bringing this up, we had our first construction meeting up at Cambridge Springs, and the construction, it was an initial meeting, and so I don't think we're ready to give a lot, there's not much that came out of that, other than it's a big project, and with the asbestos abatement piece of that project, our concern is to make sure that we allow enough time for that companies to get in there, because following that, we're also doing the floors, we're also doing the ceilings, and so there's a lot of coordination involved. And so my concern is if we get into a bunch of snow days and we have to push that date back, even up at Cambridge Springs, that's less time for us to get in there. So it's a concern that we have to consider. So simply a contingency, talking through it right now. We have the option of adding, we could utilize additional days through the hours, like I think the district did last year with the Eclipse Day. I don't know if you remember those discussions, how you utilize that. We could look at that. I'm not even prepared. I just want to put it on your radar that we're up against it right now with the snow days. And so there's other things we're looking at from a calendar perspective. I'll be bringing that next month, looking at the calendar. So I just want to make sure that we're doing what's needed to give the contractors enough time to make sure we can complete that project this summer. We're also looking at some other items there internally about getting contractors in there even before the school year is out, if we can make that. So we're looking at that, and we'll have an update next month on that. So just putting it on your radar in this discussion piece. If we need to, I'll come back to you at that point if we would need to do that. Right now, hopefully we can get in school, but this has been I picked a fine time to come back to Crawford County. I see that there's more snow this year thus far than there's been any of the previous 5 years, and so we're getting a good old-fashioned Crawford County, Erie County weather. So, community engagement night. You'll see I put a request to adjust that schedule, and the reason there was major reason for that is to provide time to respond. So we originally had it the week before these meetings. I'm asking to go 2 weeks after those meetings, beginning in February, on February 24th. That does a couple things for us. Number one, anything we gather out of those meetings with our community gives us a little more time to prepare, bring things to the board. The other thing it does is if we need, we can call a regular voting meeting that night if needed. So let's say we have 3 things tonight that come up that we decide to table or we don't vote on. Now in 2 weeks we can have that, and then we'll pretty much continue that 2-week cycle. So I would like to adjust that with the board's permission and begin those, our first one at Cambridge Springs High School on February 24th at 6:30 at night. So does anyone have an issue, problem, or questions with that? All right, the last thing I have is January is it's School Director Recognition Month. And I will say I've been here, I think it's approaching 6 months, close to it. And I want to just say thank you for the board for your work in this community. There's been, before I came here, I watched some videos and saw some of the things, and I can't tell you enough how much appreciative not only I am as the superintendent and the administrator, but also the community. The community is seeing the work that's going across tables. We don't always agree, all right? We won't always agree, but we're being respectful. We're conducting good meetings, and I just want to say thank you. This is no fun. There's no one person up here getting paid. And you're making a lot of tough decisions, and you hear the things we talk about up here, from budgets to policy, to hiring, to textbooks. I mean, these are heady issues, and to volunteer your time, I truly am appreciative of that, and just want to say thank you. We're passing out just a small token to say thank you for your service to this community. What you don't know, there's 4,500 school directors in Pennsylvania. There's 500 schools. Elections are held every 2 years. It's split 5-4. All directors are voted to a 4-year term. And an interesting one, this one was a little new to me, that school directors are elected locally. However, the state constitution delegates to them the responsibility to administer the school systems as agents of the General Assembly. And so it was interesting as I was reading and researching that. So, but anyway, I thank you very much for your service, and I think this is a good time, and so thank you for volunteering and serving. All right, on to still under the Committee of the Whole, we're on to the educational report. I'll turn this over to Mrs. Feely.
Sure, I just have a few things I want to highlight this month. We have some athletic trips, which are typical, and band trips. But I did want to highlight some of our guest speakers that are on the list for 109 approval, because I think our faculty and staff are really trying to involve the community in the classrooms. Mrs. Dean specifically at Cambridge Springs High School in the Family Consumer Science. This is the 2nd or 3rd month in a row she's bringing in community members to present real life topics, activities for students, and I think that needs to be commended. She's got Mevo Medical Center coming in. She has a local cookie decorator coming in. She has the Federal Credit Union came in last month. I think she brought in someone to show kids how to change a tire. These are some of those real-life applications that our students need, and it's nice to see the community getting involved in that process in the classroom. So I wanted to highlight that. We also have some other speakers from the county in the other buildings as well. We have an iPad Smarty Ears application, and in case you have questions on what that is, it's for speech language clinicians to use with students, and it helps them to hear and distinguish between sounds that they're working on in their speech language class. So it's just a resource to help build that. We have donated books from Mrs. Hanley. She donated them to the library. They've all been, I've read all of them, and they're all good resources for the library as well. And then the Making a Difference Conference, and you heard Mrs. Fonzo talk about the importance of what she gained from the SAS conference. It's been a long time since we've sent anybody to conferences. This year, we're going through our cyclical monitoring for special ed. So one of the things they look at is what have you done for training. The individuals that I'm putting forward for that conference are individuals that are on our monitoring committee for the special ed monitoring. They've been working since the beginning of the year to complete the process. It's a very lengthy and tedious process. So I would like to take a representative from each building to that conference because of the impactful information that's delivered at that time. It is hard for me as an individual to gain everything because the sessions happen concurrently. So I can only focus on one area. I think it'd be very beneficial for our staff, and quite honestly, it'll look good at our monitoring process when the monitors come in to see what we've done. So I hope that you will approve that for the group that's sending. It's no cost to the district. It's paid through access funds because it's tied to special education. So, and then we just have a couple of articulation agreements with local agencies like the Caring Place and Job Corps, which is again providing resources for our families. And we have a curriculum on there. It's a curriculum that we currently have, the STAR Autism curriculum, but what we're looking for is to do some more trainings. We've had the STAR Autism curriculum for probably about 10 years now, but we've not done an update training. We've had a large turnover in staff recently, so the staff that we have trying to implement the curriculum have not had the necessary training to do that, so we'd like to bring them back in district and redo and offer that training for additional staff. And that concludes what I have for education.
Any questions on education, Mrs. Field? Thank you. The facilities transportation, we don't have any other than what I talked about with the construction. We started those meetings this past week. Other than that, there's some drivers and one parent agreement on there. Any questions on anything from that?
How was the whole situation with that? How's that going?
With construction?
No, buses. You mentioned the buses.
Yeah, the busing is, we have one situation with, we're down basically a driver, and so we've had to reroute students onto different buses. That's an ongoing right now concern because of some outside factors, and the driver's not available right now. And so that's the biggest thing. It's going okay, but we're down. I mean, both companies, we're down really one with the one company, the other one we don't have any. There's not additional drivers, and so I'll put that out. Anyone who has an interest in driving bus, we can definitely use some drivers for sure. But it's going, Ryan. We're making it work, and everyone's been flexible, from our parents to the bus company to making it happen, because we've had to adjust, and we know that that's going to be continuing here for a little bit longer. Mr. Dixon, anything to add?
That's
Okay.
So when you have a conflict and you need to change bus routes and add
Yes.
kids to different buses, how is that all communicated?
How is that communicated? We've gone out through our whatever school it needs to go out on.
Okay.
It goes out through Messenger.
Okay.
Goes through Facebook. It goes out, and then we do all avenues of that.
Yeah.
We post it on also.
Okay. I remember, I think it was an email, like you had a principal had to make phone calls to every
Yes,
child
we did
on the
phone
bus.
calls too.
Okay.
Yes.
Again, I would look into, and maybe there's something with the new an app to streamline all of that. Parents see where the bus is, if there's a change, bus 46 is now gonna pick up your child around this time. Those apps are available.
be nice to get into the 21st century with our bus routes a little bit. I think it'd probably be a headache to start, but I think that would be something to go forward. I'd love to have some quotes in front of me of what an application like that would do and what it would cost. The more texts you send to the board, which I appreciate you keeping, it's more reason why I feel like we need an app to keep parents informed, because if we have a principal spending a Sunday calling every child and every parent and making sure that everybody, because again, you may call the child's home, but the parents are on a schedule, or maybe they have to communicate with the grandparents to keep the child there and make sure the child's off the bus. That's a massive logistical headache, not only on our end, but also in the homes. And again, I think an app of some sort would streamline it not only for us, but also for the parents if there's a change. They don't have solutions. I just see districts use that, and I just think that we can bring ourselves into the 21st century with that. It would be a cost. It would be a cost.
It would be a cost. And actually, Mr. Dixon and I had one conversation and started talking about that, what the cost is. The cost, there's
our trans finder, but there's a couple different things that go along with it. It's sort of how you're saying, but it's not quite that easy to do. So I mean, we're waiting on some things back from trans finder. We've already made contact.
Or if a bus is stuck and it's going to be late. I mean, we have to pick up our children from a different spot, and the parents waiting, where's the bus, what's going on? Then you get a call from the principal. It's a logistical nightmare. I'm not envious of that job at all. I just feel like, let's use technology to our advantage here.
So are you saying like the app, you can select a certain bus, and the message goes out to the person that's on all the kids' parents that are on that bus?
I haven't looked into a lot of the apps, but I have seen where if a bus has changed, your child's bus has changed this, and it'll arrive within this amount of time, almost like the way the airlines do it. Or you can GPS track a bus coming.
You have to have GPS components on your buses, so not all.
That's our biggest challenge here.
Again, there's been a multiple number of factors that we've been trying to pursue with this. One component is just a push out on what you're talking about, a communication aspect of it. If I'm going to do a push out only comment like that, I want to be able to push that out to give you your bus routes earlier in the year. That way I don't have to go back and go on the website and put routes and things along that line. I'm pushing it to you.
Right, those who are specific.
And that stuff is all being condensed and looked at right now, and that's where we're at.
Awesome.
There's other things that go with that, but again, with a little bit of the connectivity issues that we have throughout the district and things like that, it's not going to be a one cell, does everything for you. So we're kind of looking through all that information now.
Yeah. Now you can really make parochial in the sense of like this child's impacted. This one child, these 10 children will be impacted, and so you're pushing out information to those specifically. I mean, we also have for alerts and so forth. I just feel like that is something we can look into. I know it's a big undertaking with GPS, and I understand that not everywhere has good internet. I know when there was a change in the schedule for a lot of young families, it's a logistical nightmare for them too, let alone for the district. Thank you for looking into it.
Yep.
Awesome.
Financial. I would like to welcome Kristen back and back to work, and we're glad Kristen, we're glad to have you back for sure.
You look so happy.
I'm always happy. I'm always happy. So the financial report, you're going to see the same stuff you always see. The treasury reports are on there. Those are current balances. You're going to see the disbursements. Those are also listed there for all the individual funds. The Act 1 index is something that we have to do every year. This is reoccurring, so Act 1 is basically it's set by PDE. They set an index of how much you can go up to, so that's 4%, and then based on our market aid value and personal income aid ratio, we get an additional bump onto that number. So we can raise to 5.7% for taxes. So this is basically, the resolution is, all it's saying is we are not going to raise taxes above that 5.7%. If you want to go over what we could raise, we have to not pass the resolution and go through additional steps. So this isn't saying we're raising taxes, it's not saying we're not raising taxes, it's just saying we're not going to go above the index that the state is telling us we can go above, okay? So that's basically all this is. We do it every year. It's something we have to do, and then I have to have it uploaded within like 7 days of you guys passing the resolution. So is there any questions on the Act 1 index? Okay. Next on there, which is new to most of you probably, is the tax collector compensation. So we do this every 4 years. The amount for the real estate taxes didn't change. It's $10 for every parcel that they collect. And then we pay those in the installments of $5, $250, and $250. They get $5 for every real estate parcel that's not collected before they turn it over to delinquency at the end of the year. And the per capita, they used to get 5%, and they're requesting 7% this year, so a 2% increase. These numbers haven't changed in the past like 15 years. It's always been a set rate. The local municipalities are raising theirs to 7%, so this is in line with that. Act 80, again, this is another mandatory PDE. We do this every year. It's where we have to make sure that everyone on that list is our resident, and they do belong in our district. So it's just a comparison report that we have to do, $750. Again, it's a reoccurring every year. The other thing on there is the early intervention lease with the IU5. So that is going to be a January to June lease of $2,750, so that's revenue for the IU5 using our classrooms for their early intervention classroom. Starting in July, we'll have a full year of that, and that'll be the $5,500, so that's additional revenue to us. Also, you'll see on there the IDA contract, so that is Individuals with Disability Education Act. We do this every year. It's a pass-through through the IU. You'll see for the IDA Part B, it's $551,165. That's used to offset the learning support teachers' wages, and IDA Section 619 is $36.50, and we use that to offset special education services for the kindergarten eligible students. So those are your voting items, just some information on there. The projects at Cambridge are mostly paid off. We just have a small balance on the boiler project and the locker room and restroom projects. You'll see there's about $93,000 left to pay on those projects. We'll have the audit presentation in February. It was all positive, no findings, and we rolled money into the fund balance, so we'll have additional information on that next month. PESER set the new rate for next year, so you'll see that in this current budget that I'll be bringing to you. It was just an increase of 0.1. We're currently at 33.9, and it's just going to 34%, which is where we were last year. So there wasn't a huge increase in that amount. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Just a question on the tax collector compensation. What's per capita? What kind of revenue does that generate?
We get $10.
I mean, yeah. So I mean, like, what is that? Any idea what the total generation of that? It's not a huge number. But,
it's not. We're at like 60,000.
Okay. So yeah, 2% of that is not going to be very high then at all. Okay.
No.
I gotcha. Yeah, I was wondering what that was looking like but that's even smaller than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was well over 100, but yeah.
No, the real estate taxes is where we get most of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Other questions for Kristen? Okay, thank you. Under personnel, are there any questions on personnel? Okay, we did not have any, number 3 now, citizens' comments on the agenda items. There were no registered. No registered? Anybody? Okay. Number 4, the approval of the minutes. Resolved that the PENNCREST Board of School Directors approve the following minutes. December 3rd, 2024 Policy Committee meeting, December 3rd, 2024 School Board Reorganization meeting, December 3rd, 2024 School Board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried.
Under policies, we have a first reading tonight of policy 109.2 under the library materials. This was there's one change under there. That would be the change of moving the July approval date to the June board meeting date. Since we're not running a meeting in July, as it came across my desk, I said we need to make sure we get that updated. So, and then, is there any, I'd like you to take a look at this first reading, take a look, think through that, and then we can have discussion at the committee meeting in February, okay? If you would take a look at that. But this, from the administrative perspective, it's that we gotta change that date because we don't have a scheduled meeting in July. The other policy for first reading is policy 610, and this is the purchases subject to bid and quotes. And Kristen, this is something that is pretty much every year they adjust these numbers, and then we have to get these approved. So you can take a look at those different numbers, and then again, if you have any comments, questions, we can do that in February at the work session, and we'll go from there. There is one policy approval. And it's resolved that the PENNCREST Board of School Directors approve the following policy 201, admission of students, effective for the 26-27 school year. And that was some of the discussion that we had last month to move that because, well, Mrs. Steele, you could speak to that better than I could, so.
Sure, we talked about moving the age of entry back to 5 as of June 30th. So it backs it up about 2 months.
And then the reason we wanted the date to move back?
We were talking about kindergarten readiness and skill development for kindergarten age students. It also brings us in line with several of the districts in our surrounding area. It varies from some are as early as May, but we didn't want to back it up that far.
And it goes into effect
No,
next.
not for 25, 26,
That's what I saw
but for
there.
26,
Okay,
27.
so not next year, the year after.
That was a result of some discussions we had with
Principals.
Yeah, principals mainly, and then them reaching out to some of the other.
Yeah, here we are in January. A lot of parents are
That's
ready to
right.
send.
Correct.
That's right.
I mean, they may have already given up their spot in a child care facility for.
Exactly, so this gives them a year and a half
Yes.
to plan for that.
Okay. That's all I have. What's that? Yeah, we need a motion for this.
So moved, sorry.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried.
Number 6, the education report. Resolved that the PENNCREST Board of School Directors approve the consent agenda education items B through J as presented.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions?
Do we need to amend that since E is a first reading? Because it's, oh, sorry.
Yeah. For comments under that is under letter E, one thing as we just talked about here in 109.2, we're changing that policy. This would be this would be under that policy. So I think we need to approve the policy and then come back and look at the approval of the library books after the policy is approved. So I think we need to
Approving the first reading.
Yes, yeah, but not, so I would say we'd make a motion to remove this, what would we call it?
Well, if you're gonna bring it back for the next meeting,
Yeah.
do a motion to table. If you wanna postpone it to a meeting that will be after the next meeting, you can do a motion to postpone.
Can't we approve the first reading of it?
You don't really
Make
have to,
changes?
with reads too, you don't necessarily need to approve it, you just have that during your work session
Okay.
as well.
So we would need to,
You could do a motion to table just to be safe, but I don't know that a motion's even necessary because you've already had a discussion about it at your work session, so that would constitute a first.
And it is just a first reading.
Okay.
So we're-
Yeah, it's not up for approval.
Right.
Yeah.
So next month we would be approving the policy.
So do we need to
Correct.
change how A is, sorry.
Even if it's approved tonight, we can still,
Right.
it's just the first reading.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
but
Gotcha.
you're right, we
Okay.
can exclude it.
We don't have to do
Okay, I
that.
just-
We just
I
move on.
understand.
David, was your question though about letter E, which is the,
Mm-hmm.
there is an approval item on there.
Yeah, there is an
To
approval.
approve those attached
I think you
resources.
saw policy 109 and thought,
It's the letter E is actually.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, yes,
So I just wanna make sure we got
Yep.
the right.
Yeah, so I think we do need to move to table the motion, letter E, under that. You see what I'm talking?
It's just first reading.
No, letter E is the actual books that we.
Oh, the books.
The books.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think what we'll need to do is we'll need to make a motion.
Consent of and stop at the E or just remove E from.
Yeah, we can approve this for, we'll remove E from it, and then we'll come back and we'll have to make a motion to table E after that. Is that accurate? Do it that way, or should we make the motion to table first?
Do it this way. Let's do a motion to table E, and then that'll remove it from the consent agenda, and then just do another motion to approve the consent agenda B through J minus the tabled E. That'd be the easiest way to do it.
So the first one is a motion to table E.
Yeah.
All right, we got good with that?
Motion to table E.
Yes.
and the reason is just because we want to look at the date and back up the date.
We want to adhere to the policy, that's accurate.
I heard the motion.
Yeah, I'll second the motion.
Second, any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried.
Under the education report now, resolved that the PENNCREST School Board of Directors approve the consent agenda education items B through J minus E as presented.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried.
Number 7, facilities and transportation. Resolved that the PENNCREST Board of School Directors approve the consent agenda facilities and transportation items B through C.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried.
Number 8, financial report. Resolved the PENNCREST Board of School Directors approve the consent agenda financial items B through I.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried.
Under personnel, resolved that the PENNCREST Board of School Directors approve the consent agenda personnel items B through Q.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried.
I'm going to stop the meeting here just for a second to introduce to you a couple people. The first person is Richard Luke. Richard is here, and he was the new Director of Facilities that was approved tonight. Richard, stand up, and we welcome you to the team.
Thank you for having me, I appreciate it, everybody. So, I look forward to working with you guys.
Absolutely, I look forward to it. And our second person is our new Director of Safety and Security, School Police Officer, Rob Johnson.
Thank you for the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're looking forward to having you. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you coming down and being here today, too. Thank you. Your new business. Resolved that the PENNCREST Board of School Directors approve the attached updated community engagement meeting dates for 2025 as attached.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried.
Number 11, just announcement, the board did meet for executive session January 13th, 2025, for personnel negotiations and a confidential student issue. And then we also will be meeting right after this meeting, continue the executive session.
That was one that I forgot to abstain in that one.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just back up.
So we will go back to the personnel.
Paul can just note his abstention.
Yeah.
Go ahead and write it down.
Just note your extension.
Yeah. That's,
Yeah. J, correct.
J.
Okay, you go back to letter J on that vote. We had the motion in the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'm abstaining.
Right.
Any oppositions? Motion carried.
It's all right.
Number 12. Citizen comments on non-agenda items. Any comments? I will turn this back over to you for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Meeting adjourned.